welcome everybody to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. Today is Monday, May the 4th, and may the 4th be with you, Brees. I know your clan is watching Star Wars as we speak. And before we could get going tonight, had some technological issues here with the internet up in Middle Tennessee.
It's a hot mess, Adam. As my daughter would say, it's a hot mess. There's a chopper in the air or something. I don't know what the kids say. But here's what I do know. One, I've had no power since 4:30 p.m. as of yesterday. Working on about a 27-hour no power.
Ooh, wow.
Currently sitting in my in-laws as my three sons are watching the series finale of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. And three, my wife has made Star Wars popcorn, and then they created their own Star Wars images with marshmallows and vanilla wafers. It's a who's who of Star Wars characters.
Dude, that's hardcore. I didn't realize we're so hardcore.
Some of them are.
Yeah.
What has two thumbs and is not hardcore? This guy.
I figured you weren't a big Star Wars guy. You never did. Never were big into that. But well, as everybody can probably imagine right now by just looking at our background, every Monday is Last Dance Monday. At least for the last 3 weeks, it has been. Episodes 5 and 6 dropped last night at 9:00. And the two images that we have behind us encapsulate a lot of what last night's episodes were about. Kind of started with the Olympic theme because it ended up sort of like after the 92 championship, and everybody was kind of talking about, hey, David Stern, hey, Michael, you going to play? And he's like, well, who's playing? Because, he's not going to commit to play with a bunch of scrubs. And there was a lot of sort of, I guess, I don't want to say blame necessarily, but there was a lot of innuendo thrown Jordan's way that he was the reason that Isaiah Thomas was left off the team, even though he met all the criteria. And I thought it was interesting last night how he kind of was like, look, if you want to say it was me, then you say it was me, but that's your opinion. He goes, there was a lot of guys that didn't want him on. I mean, he had blow-ups with Bird. Bird didn't like him. Magic really didn't like him that much. And there were some other guys on that team that just didn't like the guy. And I thought it was interesting what Jordan said about the team chemistry when he was asked. He said, look, had Isaiah gone to Barcelona, would it have changed the team chemistry? Would it have changed the vibe and what you got out of the experience? And he's like, without question, no doubt. It would have been completely different. And, you and I have talked about this before, like 1992. I mean, you were 22, I was 21. And I can remember going, and we talked about this, going over to my mom's boss, his condo. And back in the day, you couldn't just turn on, have this like lavish program of Olympic events. You're like, oh, I'm going to watch figures, or I'm going to watch, track and field, the 800 at this time. And I'm going to watch this. It was like, hey, it's over in Spain. We're airing it live. We're not tape delaying anything. And, oh, by the way, we're only going to cover the stuff that's in prime time. So you had to buy those packages, red, white, and blue. And and it was super expensive, but he bought all of them. And so we got to go over there and watch the Dream Team play a couple times, and that was pretty cool. But what was your take on the whole Dream Team, how it kind of changed really the NBA's footprint globally?
Yeah, I think obviously a big part of it for me was just seeing how they welcomed Tony Kukoc into the league with just a little taste of how they played in the NBA, and again how Jerry Krause, is deemed to be kind of the Darth Vader of this whole thing. Everything he says, Kukoc was supposedly his guy. Also, we also saw that Michael Jordan referenced that Dan Marley, when they were playing in the finals, Krause mentioned that Dan Marley was a great player, a good defender, and Jordan took exception to that, obviously. So, but going back to the international play, I mean, that was just like the Beatles on tour kind of deal, and they just took names. Obviously, I do remember the Reebok thing.
Yeah, so that's
with the flag,
the
and
that was a huge deal. Like that was
Yeah.
a huge deal back then. And you think about like of all the things he could have done, only Jordan could pull this off the way that he did and come out smelling like a rose in that way. But you just muted yourself.
I got to tell you this, Adam. The only reason I'm muting myself while you're talking is I've got dishes clanging. I'm at my in-laws' house. Dishes clanging. I've got Star Wars blaring in the back.
Okay.
So I was just.
All right, I was making sure it wasn't like a glitch or something you didn't.
No. Obviously, no.
Did. Okay, all right. If I see it again, I won't even reference it. I'll just like take your word for it that you're working out for me. But yeah, the game with the first game against Croatia, I think Kukoc had like 6 points and was just getting just they were all over him like a pack of wild dogs on defense, just not letting him breathe. And I think I remember watching that game because there was so much hype. It's funny how everybody was like mispronouncing his name, Kukoc.
Yeah, I'm not sure why.
Nobody said it right.
Yeah,
like Jim Lampley messed it up. Karl Malone was messing it up. Even Jordan, they didn't know. They weren't even saying it right. But they really didn't give the guy. I mean, they didn't know. He had no idea that this was going on. He's over in Croatia playing in Europe professionally, and he's going through all this stuff. I mean, there's civil war and
he was making more money playing in Europe than he was going to be making in the NBA.
Yeah, which to me is really interesting. But yeah, that the whole Olympic experience, and great fact from last night's episode. Jordan, one of only 2 people to win a gold medal, win an MVP, win a finals in the same year. And the other one's LeBron James in 2012.
I'm not going to mention his name.
Okay. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't holds a candle to Michael Jordan. Don't even get me started on it. That's a whole entire other thing. It's a whole other episode, if you will. But I will say that 92 Dream Team, I can remember this now. I can remember myself and Bo Mitchell. Okay, we lived in an apartment together over there in Gazebo, G15. Long live G15. He was like, hey, he's like Dream Team cards come out today, like the box set or whatever, like the sets. So we go to Sam's and we wait in line at Sam's Wholesale Club because he had a membership, and we each got, I think, 2 boxes of Dream Team cards. And we got them because we're thinking, all right, we're going to get these and they're going to be worth a ton of money. I think they were like $12 a piece. And they never really did go up. I never even opened mine. I never even got them. They were still in the cellophane, and I ended up selling them to somebody, on a garage sale website or something for like $40, like 5 years ago or something, because they just never did take off because they made so many of them. But again, that was part of that global, revolution that was the Dream Team and all those guys that played on there. You had the cups from McDonald's and commercials and just all this stuff and gear and the jerseys and also. What number did Michael Jordan wear in the Olympics?
What number did he wear? Oh wow! You know what? You just caught me off guard. I'm going to say 10.
You're close. He wore
11.
Number 9.
Oh, jeez.
Number 9. Yeah, he wore number 9. What number did Magic Johnson wear?
11.
15.
Oh my gosh.
Were you even paying attention, Tom? Come on.
Well, dude, my last 27 hours have been kind of rough. So
I hear you. Well, that kind of transitions to your background, which is kind of where they spent a majority of episode 6, and that was the the golf, the and you sort of saw it in different aspects. I mean, he was gambling with the security guys at the United Center, throwing quarters. I mean,
Yeah.
and so that kind of came to the forefront. What was your take on how they portrayed that?
Well, I think there was when you were talking about all the advertisements that Jordan was doing, all the promotions and stuff like that, and they talked about the Jordan 1s that came out,
Yeah.
and the guy from Nike said, "Listen, we'll be happy if he does $3 million in 1 year," and he did what, 126 million.
Yeah.
And I think that's when Jordan obviously had a real competitive edge, but I think that gave him the opportunity to, when you have money, that you want to try, he was, being a part of the gambler is, trying to make it even more obtainable as far as, the next big payout. And I think he did a lot of, obviously he did it with cards and even the little game in the back of the quarters or whatever. But I think a lot of the time he did it in golf because golf was a sport that he had a hard time perfecting.
Yeah.
And that was a challenge to him.
Yeah.
And,
and to win money at that,
yeah,
a huge victory for him because
right.
he had to really try, and it wasn't like he's challenging guys on his team to a game of horse.
Right.
20 grand or something like that. It was, like you said, it was something that was challenging for him that he had to work at.
And the second thing that I noticed about the whole gambling part was the story that Will Perdue talked about how the guys were up front doing dollar a hand blackjack, and they were in the back, and then Jordan walked up and says, "Hey, what are you doing?" And it was like, "You don't want to be involved with this." He said, "I just want to have your money in my pocket."
Yeah, and that right there, that statement, that tells you all you need to know about Michael Jordan. And does he have a gambling problem? No, he mentioned it. He said, "I have a competition problem," because he competes at everything that he does, and it just happens it just happened to come to light, with some guys that maybe were a little shady, that he had lost some money to, but he had, he was good for it. He paid it up, whatever, he wasn't breaking any laws, right? And then he got raked over the coals for him and his dad going to Atlantic City after game 2, to blow off a little steam and just, he's with his dad, he's gambling, whatever, and he says, we were back by 12:30, 1 o'clock. It's not a big deal. And everybody made it into a big deal because of this past experience that he had.
Well, the thing that was interesting to me was every time someone challenged him by giving him an excuse for why he was playing so poorly, he would answer immediately the next game with some incredible performance.
Yeah, and that was the game 3 against the Knicks, where he was like, "I'm taking over. I'm Michael Jordan. I'm taking over." And that's, I don't know that we will see that again. Not like that, because the game is not even played anything close to what it was played in the early to mid 90s. It's a completely different game. Like, it's right now, the NBA is so boring to watch. You don't even have, like, just every now and then, if you even happen to be watching an NBA game, all right, like by some large mistake, or there's absolutely nothing, you have nothing else going on in your life, and you happen to turn on an NBA game, look in the lane. There will be nobody in the lane. Okay, routinely, everybody's just scattered around the 3-point line. That's all they do. The Rockets are one of the biggest offenders, but it's just a different game. It's much less physical now, and guys, when it goes to like taking over a game, he could take anybody one-on-one at any time he wanted to, and it's just like he had this deep repertoire of moves that he would Okay, well, you think I'm going to shoot a fadeaway? I'm doing up and under, and I'm going to lay it off the glass. I mean, it's just like repetition, repetition, repetition. But you know,
All right.
the response that you're talking about, again, just great stuff.
Let
Great.
me ask you this, and you know, I felt really bad for the whole Dan Marley thing, but I felt extremely bad for the Clyde Drexler thing, and that, you know, how the press was saying Jordan versus Drexler, and Jordan was like, "There's not a comparison."
Yeah,
In your background, is Jordan standing next to Clyde Drexler?
he is.
That's pretty funny.
He is. He's standing right next to Clyde the Glide. Now, I always loved Clyde Drexler. I loved him when he was in Houston with in college with the Phi Slamma Jamma. I always thought he was just a great player. But you can't compare those two. Yes, they had similar numbers, I believe, that year as far as like points and rebounds and steals and assists and stuff like that. But Michael had, his numbers were down because he was getting everybody, and everybody else was so much better because of him. But yeah, I remember that happening. I remember the comparisons between those two guys, and I remember back then thinking, he's no Michael Jordan. He's really good, but he's no Michael Jordan. And that was an unfair, like you said. I think it was unfair to Clyde Drexler. He's a good player in his own right, and probably a top 50 guy all time. But he's no Michael for sure, definitely. All right, so that gets us up to date with our dream team and our all the stuff we got going on. But there's stuff.
Here he comes.
There's other stuff going on here in sports, and we're going to bring it to you here at Drive Through Sports. We leave no stone unturned here. The gentleman behind me signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Cowboys. That's Andy Dalton. $3 million guaranteed, $7 million in incentives. He's taken teams to the playoffs multiple times. He's talented enough to win. He's good enough to be a starter. And he's your backup now in Dallas. Now, you had an interesting theory earlier today that you shared with me. I think you should share it with our listeners.
Well, obviously, the Red Rifleman there, Andy Dalton, similar statistics with Dak Prescott, except maybe he occasionally throws it to the other team a little more. But my conspiracy theory in me says that, Jerry Jones got a little, extra money to wave around a little bit. And he's decided to put himself in having a Corona backup quarterback. Dak and Zeke, they've been known to break the old the rules of social distancing.
Social distancing rules.
And obviously, they could put themselves at risk. And having someone like Andy Dalton is a tremendous insurance policy at the quarterback position.
And I'll even take it a step further and say that, they haven't signed Dak Prescott to a long-term deal yet. Everybody assumes that they're going to, but if you're Dak Prescott and they sign this guy for $3 million or whatever, you got to be thinking, man, maybe I, should have signed, whatever they offered me 3 months ago or whatever it was. It's kind of a gamble. I mean, if you tag him, it's going to cost you $28 million a year. And that's a 1-year deal. If you tag Dak Prescott, not Andy Dalton, obviously. So, I don't know that maybe he's playing mind games with him to try and get him to come to the table and negotiate, and try to get a leg up on him. That's Jerry Jones, man. He's got Jerry World for a reason. I mean, he is a multi-millionaire for a reason. He's savvy. He's smart. A lot of people don't like him, but you don't have to like him to be able to appreciate, his ability to sort of foresee things and negotiate and that sort of stuff. And I know a lot of people in Dallas that love the Cowboys hate him, which is funny. But anyway, so that's a little bit of NFL news that we had for you guys. And we're going to finish up talking about, again, sometimes my favorite part of the show, which is the human interest part, which Brees has grown to love.
Got it.
What? What?
I love the human interest. We need to have a theme song for the human interest part.
I know we gotta. I mean, it just kind of gives everybody a glimpse into kind of what really goes on in our lives and what has gone on in our lives. So here's the deal. So we were thinking about, like, okay, so some of your favorite places to eat growing up. Okay, so if you've already got a couple in mind, I've got a couple in mind. Just because it didn't even have to have great food, just a lot of memories, like of eating there for me is where I get my places. So I don't know if you're going by food quality, dining experience. Okay.
No, it's totally based upon what you're saying.
Yeah.
Just the experience and just the memories that it entails.
Okay.
Hey, we could take this tennis courts. We could take this tennis match style. I'll go, you go, I'll go, you go.
All
Let's
right.
take this back and forth.
Back and forth all day. All right. I'm going to let you jump off here and you start.
Obviously, I was a big fan whenever we could go to Ponderosa. Because that was the ultimate, and for you kids at home, it was the kids' version of Golden Corral. May have not had a chocolate fountain and cotton candy, but when you could go and eat steak repeatedly, and you got in line and you got that little, you just rolled through. I thought it was awesome. Obviously, we're going for quantity, not quality in this choice.
Yes.
But the Ponderosa Western Sizzling, is that kind of the same family, right?
You're stealing my thunder.
Oh, man, I'm sorry. All right. I'll mute myself. Go for
it. All right. Yeah, I'm going to piggyback that since you're going with steak with a steak family restaurant. Western Sizzler in Franklin, Tennessee. Again, back then, I thought it was the best food. All right. It was a special because it was always myself, my mom, my dad, my grandmother and grandfather, Gretchen. We would go there, and it was typically Saturday night. We would go to Western Sizzling. If we were going to Western Sizzling, it was like a big deal. And you would get the the numbers, like of your whatever you ordered. You had your tray, and they would put the number on there, like number 14 or whatever, and then you get it served to you. I just thought, I don't know. And you go back and get as much drinks as you wanted and all that sort of stuff. I just remember their baked potatoes were so good. But it's more about it was a family thing. Like we would go as a family, and that's sort of what we did for going out, because we really didn't eat out that much. Not like people do today. I mean, it's like now it's like 3-4 times a week people will do that. Well, we didn't do that. Like it was like special if you got to go to Western Sizzling. So that was my deal. That's why it makes my list as one of them.
Obviously, we're in the same family. That was good. So in the same context, and these places are around barely, but it was something that I always did either on a Friday or a Saturday with my grandparents. They used to live right down the road from me. It would be we go up top of the hill, and we'd either eat at Captain D's or Shoney's, and we alternate. And that was just something that, I can remember myself doing as a kid with my grandparents. But again, not the quality type of food, but definitely memories involved in that.
Yeah, it wasn't that. And for me, and the same hill in Brentwood, off of Old Hickory, Shoney's for me. And it was Shoney's like after church on Sunday for me, because I would always because after church on Sunday for us was typically we would go back to our house, and my grandparents went to a different church. And by the time we got home and got everything ready, they would show up and we would all eat. So it was very rare that we would go from church to eat at Shoney's, because we always ate with my grandparents. So whenever we got to go to Shoney's, again, not the greatest food, okay, but you had like a lot of people from church, and our friends and their parents would go to Shoney's because it was just easier. And if we got to go to Shoney's and eat, if I got to go to Shoney's and eat after church on Sunday, that was a huge deal for me. And so again, not a quality of food issue. Again, more of a quantity, because you get the breakfast bar and you could get 6 pounds of bacon if you wanted to. And I typically would. I would have like a couple of things of eggs, and then I would have just bacon for days. And they had those awesome biscuits and gravy. Oh, so good. It was like $6 or something like that. It's ridiculously cheap. But yes, Shoney's for me. But different time, Sunday after church. Really with you and Craig and Lee and Pete and all those guys. That's where they typically went.
Yeah, for sure. I think we may be over 400 miles apart, but we still have the same idea. That's pretty cool.
Same idea. We're
pretty cool.
Simpatico. You got one more? I got one more.
Do you? Well,
I do.
all right. Let's hear it.
I've got one more, and I feel like you're gonna jump on this one. All right.
All right.
Mr. Gattis Pizza.
Oh.
How many times did we go to Mr. Gattis Pizza, either in Franklin or Green Hills? And then even more once they started doing the buffet. And just, it was where we would end up after, whatever sort of like church event was planned, a skate night or a movie night or whatever. Mr. Gattis was where we went to eat. And because it was where everybody could agree on. And, I think Bobby was a big Mr. Gattis fan back in the day. And we loved it. We loved Mr. Gattis. And I used to think that the G was kind of cool, how they did the Mr. Gattis, the G, and they had the salad bar, and I mean, they had just, you could go back as much as you wanted. And the pizza was really good, I thought.
Yeah. I would call it more of a upscale CC's pizza.
Upscale CC's.
Yes, y'all have CC's down there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Upscale CC's. That's a perfect, it's sit down type of pizza joint, not like the buffet style pizza, because you order your pizza and they bring it out to you or whatever. But
and a funny thing is, I think sometimes we would time it out to where we could go watch sports, if I'm not mistaken. I remember going in that back room and watching a few sporting events back there.
I think
obviously
you're
because
right.
cable was not a big thing, a prevalent thing, and sometimes we would have to find a place to go watch it, certain sporting events. And I remember a couple times saying, hey, let's go to Gattis.
Let's go. Yeah, I think you're right. Because they did have a media room, and then you go in the back if you wanted to watch TVs and stuff, and then you had the regular dining room in the front. So, Mr. Gattis is one of those old school restaurants. I don't even know if they're still around anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know think so. In Tennessee, they're not here. I wonder if the one in Green Hills is still around. It's been
no.
I doubt it's still. The real estate where that Mr. Gattis was on is way too valuable for it to be a Mr. Gattis right now. So I'm pretty sure whoever owned that probably sold it and made millions because of where it was. They're right behind Green Hills Mall, which I'm sure has exploded right now. But well, guys, that gets us to the end of our episode. I want to encourage everybody to check out our YouTube channel, Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul. That is blowing up. Get in on the ground floor, people. Just telling you. Just tell
All
them.
right. Buy now, buddy. Buy now.
Buy now. That's right. Buy low, sell high. That's what you got to do. But
That's right.
also check us out on iHeart, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Apple Podcasts for our audio version of each episode. And those get published 4 nights a week. And then, of course, who could forget Friday Night Live with Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul on Facebook Live, which will be coming at you this Friday, provided Brees has internet.
I'll take lights at this point.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So for the powerless Paul Brees in Bellevue, I'm Adam Freeman coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. You've been listening to Drive Through Sports with Adam and Paul.